Hi guys, Coach Julia here. We're going to talk about jerks again because they're my favorite and seems to be the thing that I get the most amount of questions on in addition to the snatch. The thing that makes jerks hard is that it is the shortest lift in terms of duration. It has the least amount of distance to travel, right? It's only going from your shoulder to overhead, versus like the snatch, which has a really long distance that it travels. The clean's a little bit shorter because it's only getting to your shoulders. And because the jerk happens so quickly, it's even more important that the direction and the timing, the direction of the bar, I should say, and the timing of how you're getting yourself under is really, really fine-tuned. There is less margin for error. I think a lot of people assume that the jerk is about having a lot of shoulder strength, and that is totally incorrect. We need good upper back strength to maintain a front rack, but it's largely dependent on your ability to create good leg drive, hip extension upward into the bar, and then to get your feet out. There's two big secrets to the jerk. Number one is you have to have a really good dip. That's half the battle, right? If you dip and you set it up correctly and your head is out of the way and the dip is balanced and you don't shift forward and your weight stays even in your feet, you're halfway there. I'm not going to talk about that there because that just requires a little bit of practice and self-awareness and some postural strength. The second half is secret, loading the back leg. I've gotten into this conversation a little bit recently in that athletes are very focused on getting the back leg down earlier than the front leg, which is correct. But what happens if you get it down and you can't bear load on it? Because that's the problem I see a lot of times in athletes trying to fix this problem is they might be getting that back leg down, or they might be able to move the back leg earlier, but they can't bear load on it. And if you can't do that, then it's not really helpful. So when I talk about bearing load, what I mean is I'll see athletes dip, back leg moves, they set it down, they step, but they can't eccentrically load this back quadricep, so they end up pushing themselves forward anyway. Even though my back foot is in a good position, even though it got there fast, if I can't support weight on it and I end up shifting forward, that doesn't solve my problems, right? So timing is an element, but at an even more base level is, can you support weight on that back leg once it gets to the ground? Because if we can do that, if we can stay loaded on this back leg, that allows you to step the other foot forward. So that's part of this conundrum, is loading the back leg. Now, if I can't load this, and I end up having to do this, a lot of times that also causes a reach in the rib cage. So now I'm hyperextended under my back, and that doesn't allow me to bear load either. So it's a two-part problem. One, can the quad support this amount of eccentric loading? And do I have the requisite trunk stability and shoulder mobility to keep my rib cage over my hip while still putting the bar behind my head? Okay? Because if I can't get into those positions and load them, I can't get there and load them quickly, right? I gotta be able to do it static, then slow, and then fast. So, two drills that we're gonna do today that are gonna help you, one, load this back leg better, and two, find a way to keep your rib cage over your hips while still getting your arms behind your head. So I've shown this exercise before, and I use it all the time. It is the split squat, but again, I'm very, very specific in how I use and coach split squats for weightlifters, right? It's different for general population. It's different if we want to bias the glutes. For weightlifters, we need to feel hip on top of knee, rib on top of hip. So I'll a lot of times have athletes start from the bottom, tuck their hip under, rib cage down, and then see if they can maintain this relationship as they come up. Most of them can't. Most of them will need to do this. They'll want to shift load off of the back leg onto the front leg, and that's what we're trying to fix. So be strict about it. Make sure you are keeping load on that back leg. Okay, so it's appropriate in this situation to use something like a PVC pipe or hold onto a rack to give you some support. Here, tuck the hip, push into this back toe, see if you can lift up while maintaining this relationship. Notice my ankle is just a little bit in front of my front knee. I don't want to be over it. On top of it will still give me the urge to lean forward, so I want that front ankle just slightly in front of the knee. And again, I can use a little bit of support to help me get through that position. Okay, so if I can do it first with a support, then without a support body weight, the next thing I would add before I start to load this up is actually just increase the range of motion. So elevating the front foot a little bit. You can elevate it on a plate. I have it up on a block here, but I want to find those same positions. Tuck the hip, hip on top of knee, front knee just slightly behind the ankle, and then from here, I'm going to try to slowly, eccentrically come down, load that back quad, and come back up. And this is really intense on that quad. Most athletes won't need to add weight to that. Sometimes just increasing the range of motion, they find that they're so restricted and so tight through that front hip flexor and quad that this is enough. Again, that is part of figuring out our puzzle of how to support weight in the split is, can you load the back quad? And this is what we're gonna practice. The second piece of the puzzle has more to do with the shoulder and the rib cage. So this is a trunk stability and shoulder mobility thing. I'm using a crossover symmetry here. You can also use a band that you just loop around a rack. So we're back in our same split stance. This time, I'm gonna work one arm at a time just to minimize the amount of variables. We're gonna tuck your hip under, rib cage stays on top of that hip. You gotta stay real tight, hand behind your shoulder, and you're gonna try to press straight overhead. Notice, my arm is behind my ear, but I haven't lost tension through here. And then I come back down. Press. If I want to add some more specificity to this, I'm going to set up the same way. I'm going to press my arm overhead, and then I'm going to try to see if I can stand up into my split stance where I would be in the jerk. Tuck the hip, hand in place, press, lock it out, keep it behind you. Come up, down, reset. You can use these drills on your non-training days, kind of as technical mobility exercises. You can use them as primers before you get into the jerk. Again, 1, figure out the dip. That's set for another video. 2, make sure you have the ability to support load in a correct position, and then you can try to get there fast, right? Because all the cueing in the world for get the back foot down, step the front through forward doesn't help if you can't actually support weight on that back leg. And do it in a way that doesn't compromise your trunk and the position of the bar. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more weekly content on weightlifting. We'll address some mobility stuff. We'll address some technical stuff. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. Find me on Instagram at jfalamis. See you next time.